with all the things that are going on uh, right now, I'm don't want to necessarily use the word excited, but I'm glad that we have an opportunity to do what we're going to do on tonight. I want to hear the heart of our black teens. So, as a result of wanting to know how they feel, I invited about 5 of our teenagers right here at the Link Church so that we could just have a dialogue, just have a conversation to see what's on their mind, what's on their heart. And my prayer tonight is that a lot of our eyes are open, okay? Not all of us have teenagers, so we haven't been able to have conversations with teenagers. I've had the privilege of having conversations with my 10-year-old, but I haven't been able to have a true in-depth conversation with a teenager. And many of you may not have had that opportunity as well. And my hope is that it not only blesses another black man, it not only opens the perspective or minds of another black woman, but my prayer and hope is that somehow, some way, this video, whether live or later on, gets in the hands of some white teenager or some white mother of a child, some white father of a child. Because let's be honest, some people have tuned me out already. Some people have tuned me out. Some people of other races and nationalities, they have tuned me out. The only thing that they see when I speak is an angry black man, even if there's no anger there. Let's just be honest, some of us have been tuned out. But I'm praying, believing, and hoping that maybe that person who has tuned me out will possibly hear the heart of an unbiased, a pure-hearted teenager. And maybe transformation begins there. I don't believe that policy is going to truly transform America. We need it. We need prayer, then we need to go protest, and then eventually we need to get to policy. But I think that it's the heart that needs to be truly changed for the world to truly be changed. And that's going to start with the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I pray that as we listen to these teens on tonight, that somehow, some way, some hard-hearted man or woman or teen catches this video and God begins to work on the true transformation that's needed in America or this world, and that's the transformation of the heart. So, how you guys doing? Y'all all right? They nervous, y'all. They was about ready, when they came in about 6 o'clock and we were talking, it's all good in the hood. I'm ready. Let's talk about it. I'm ready to put me on CNN. And then about 5 minutes ago, they was like, oh, Pastor, my stomach hurt. I'm ready to run. Can I leave right now? One of them tried to convince me that they would give me 30% off of sandwich on their job if I let them leave right now. Okay, as if I forced them to come. All right, here we go. So let's start here. Tell everybody, look in the camera too when you're talking. Tell everybody your first name only, and what grade you're in. That's it. Don't tell them your last name. Don't tell them what school you go to. Just tell them your first name and how old you are, what grade you're in. Yeah, 3 things then.
Hi, my name is Martasia. I'm in 11th grade and I am 16 years old.
My name is Michael Sanders. I'm in the 11th grade and I'm 16 years old.
My name is Moya and I'm in the 12th grade and I'm 17 years old.
I'm Taylor. I'm in the 11th grade and I'm 16 years old.
I'm Malachi and I'm currently in college.
All right, you ain't in college yet, boy. You just graduated 6 days ago. He on his way to college, okay? But it's good. If that feels good, he said, I'm in college. Okay, you're on your way to college. That's good. Praise God. All right, so let's start this conversation off. Listen, man, I can't relate to where you guys are. I'm just going to be honest with you. I can't relate. The experience that you have now and have had post-elementary, I didn't have that experience. And now, let's not misunderstand or get it twisted. This has been taking place. But because of the inaccess that many of us had in my generation, in my time in the mid-'90s, early '90s, we didn't know what was going on unless our parents were news watchers, and they even allowed us to watch news. Because there was a time when parents, depending on how old you were, they didn't even let you watch news because all the news was just negative stuff, right? So there was no way. We didn't have phones. Y'all like, oh, y'all didn't have phones? No, we didn't have phones when I was in elementary, junior high, or high school. So if something like this happened in California, I wasn't going to know about it unless I heard my parents talk about it or I just so happened to overhear on the news. And even then, at 13 or 14, I probably didn't really care about what was going on in the news. I just wanted to go out and play basketball or play football. But even in your case, even if you still had that mindset of, I just want to run out and play football and basketball, you can't run away from what's going on because you have an Instagram page. You got a YouTube page. You got a Facebook page. You got a TikTok page. Like, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. You cannot go anywhere without hearing about what's going on. So I said all that to say that over the last 10 to 12 years, your life has been filled with hearing about situations, stories, and circumstances with men like George Floyd. It has almost become a norm. Something like this is going to happen. How do you feel growing up and this has now almost become a norm? Feel free. We'll start with the oldest since he on college. He already in college. Okay, represent.
My fault. I'm sorry. It is a little scary for me, especially with all the things that has been going on this year. Everything has been going on in one time, in one place. You know, you got the COVID, and then, like you said, the George Floyd and the races and stuff going on. So, I mean, it's definitely a scary situation for me. But I have faith in God and knowing that everything is going to be all right.
Good.
I believe it's teaching all of us how to be aware and where our minds should be and what we should be thinking and how we should act and just truly what we should be doing to protect ourselves and to protect others.
The question was, being the fact that you've grown up seeing the results of racism and specifically unarmed black men being killed by police officers and justice not being done, how does that make you feel, being that in your lifespan, this is normal for you? Whereas, again, as I stated in the beginning, when I was 17, this wasn't a norm for me. Now, it may have been happening as much as it happened now, but because I didn't have access to the media that you guys have today, it didn't appear or make me feel like this was just part of my life.
It's a difficult time, definitely. Just seeing everything that's going on and racism being just out there visibly where everybody can see it. It's definitely a lot to take in. It's hard to, just go out and live your life because you have to be careful of what you do, where you go. You have to be aware of your surroundings. So it's definitely not an easy thing to get used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, like she was saying,
go
it's
ahead.
definitely difficult, especially because, like, policemen are supposed to be people who protect us and stuff. When they're, like, hurting people of the same color as us, it's, like, scary to think, like, okay, is this going to happen to me next?
Well, I think that the media sometimes, like, I feel like the media also gets in your head about this situation. Like, I feel like that's everybody's resource nowadays is the media. And everybody believes what they see on the media or, stuff.
Yeah, the media can be tricky, and then yeah, it's definitely sometimes hard to believe because the media they'll shape the narrative. One of the things that we're used to now, and I would encourage you to be careful of receiving that narrative from the media, is in a case like a George Floyd, the moment that the media finds out that the unarmed black man was killed, the first thing they go do is search for, does he have a mugshot? And then they want to show his mugshot as if, you know, as if a theft warranted death, or as if writing a bad check warranted death, and that we're supposed to somehow, it's like they shape the narrative as if we're supposed to somehow feel a little less angry because the unarmed black man that was killed was not an angel in disguise. Listen, writing a bad check does not warrant death. Resisting arrest does not warrant death. Being black does not warrant death. How do you feel when we see an unarmed black man killed and we see politicians don't want to charge these men with murder until we burn something down? How you feel about that?
Personally, I feel that when these sort of things go on, the first thing that happens, they'll be like, "What about the black on black crime?" And they'll try to change how whatever happened, and you'll see a whole video about it. Like the guy's got his knee on his throat and stuff. He can't breathe, and he's saying it, but then he's dead. And then the next thing you know, it's on the news, and everybody's like, "What about the black on black crime?" But that's not the only thing we got to look at. We got to look at what's right and what's going on and what took place.
Good, that's good.
Honestly, it's hurtful because you try to put yourself in that person's shoes as if you were the one being forced on the ground, and you're saying you're not resisting, you're telling them you're not resisting, and you know you're doing everything that's being told, but they're still applying force to you, and just, you know, it hurts because
They're restarting it. They'll let us know when it's started back up. All right, guys. Hey, we apologize. We had some technical difficulties. It's crazy because in 3 months during this whole entire time, we've never had a technical difficulty. But tonight, so I feel like definitely some change or transformation is going to take place from this. The last question we asked was, how do you feel about the media when they attempt to shape the narrative of the unarmed black man by putting his mugshot up, letting us know that, I mean, a man could be 45 years old, gunned down in the street with his hands in the air, turned to his back, and then 2 days later they telling us when he was 9, he got caught smoking weed in the 6th grade. You know, as if that's supposed to make us less angry or less outraged because 30 years ago he wasn't a perfect angel. How does that make you feel?
I think it's wrong. Like, it happened in the past. I just think that they see that we are bringing so much, like, attention towards him and how much attention that he's getting that they want to backlash him and just find old stuff to make him feel like, oh, let's leave him alone a little bit, you know? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Personally, myself, I see it as inequality because a black man can do this. A black man can be smoking weed at 9, and then a white man can do it, and then all of a sudden it's like they'll probably, even older, they'll charge them as, oh, they were worse doing it than them. But truly, maybe the white man was doing it more. And so it's just people judging you.
Yeah.
And I like my brother Michael was saying, I really think it's also about taking the focus off of what's really going on and placing it like he said, backlashing onto somebody else. And so that's what I really think, you know, right now is everybody taking the focus off, you know, what's going on. They trying to bring out, like you said, bring attention onto, you know, somebody else and what they did years ago instead of what's going on right now. And eyes are opening. So I really definitely think it's really the focus issue.
Like they were saying, really they take the focus off, and a white man could do something way worse, and then a black man could either do nothing or do something so little, yet they get put to death or they get put in jail for a longer time. As the white man, he basically he runs free, and they don't correct him for what he did.
Yeah. What you gonna say, something?
I think that we have to also not just make it about black and white racism. There's racism going on with all races, so we can't just see it as white and black, even though that's the main things we see on TV. That's all they show. They'd be like, a black man killed by a white man, or a black man killed by another black man, or a white man killed by black. We got to see it as it's not just us and whites. It's other races. It's Indians, Asians, whatever you want to call it. But we have to. But this is the main thing that we see. So this is what we're focusing on.
Yeah, and we definitely have to focus on it because that's where the injustice lies. A lot of people, they use the phrase, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but people who go against that phrase, Black Lives Matter, they'll say all lives matter. And if by chance there's somebody watching this and you kind of have a confused state on what's the importance of Black Lives Matter, why can't it be that all lives matter? All lives do matter. Nobody who has ever stated Black Lives Matter has meant that white lives don't matter. They've never meant that Asian lives don't matter. What it means is that we are not seen in the same light as other races. We're just saying, hey, we want to be seen as equal partners, okay? So many laws have been put in place, like fair housing laws and things like redlining in the banks, that they've tried to level the playing field. All of these things stem from systemic racism because we don't have the opportunity to get the same houses that others have. We haven't had the opportunity to get the same funding that other people have. And what Black Lives Matter is just saying, hey, we deserve the same rights as everybody else. If someone kills us, the person who kills us deserves the same 40 or 50 years. Micah mentioned something about, that we got to look at black on black crime when we kind of went into the when we lost a signal with the video. He was mentioning something about black on black crime, and I've seen black people that'll use that. Hey, we got to make sure we're just as angry when a black man kills another black man. Listen, I don't know too many people who don't care about black men killing black men. Let me tell you the difference. What we're angry about the most is the fact that the white officer, the white man, is not getting his justice, okay? We don't have to riot when a black drug dealer kills another black drug dealer in a drug deal gone bad. We don't have to go down to City Hall and say, give this man a charge of murder. We don't have to do that, right? So that it's not required. We don't have to go burn down a police station when a black man kills another black man, okay? What we got to do is we got to go protest and riot when a black man gets caught with a joint and y'all want to give him 25 years. That's what we got to riot. So we don't have to go and try to push for black men to get justice when they've done wrong, okay? This is what we have to do. So this is what Black Lives Matter. We're not discrediting that any other race does not matter. We're just saying that we're not seeing justice when we're on the other side of the spectrum. How do you feel when you hear all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter?
Okay, so it's definitely frustrating because I've never heard someone say, like, Black lives only matter. I've only heard Black lives matter. And I've seen stuff saying that, you know, all lives matter, of course. We're not saying that. We're not saying, like, okay, my life matters over yours. But it's more of, like, what's happening to your race right now? What's going on in your family right now?
Yes,
Do you have
yeah.
to get in your car and be scared when a cop gets behind you that he might reach for his gun when you reach for your license type thing? It's
Yeah.
more of, like, what's going on right now, how we're feeling about something.
Yeah, yeah. Anybody want to touch on that?
To piggyback off what she was saying, it's just basically equality and everyone being shown the same respect, and if not, then I don't know.
If you think about it, like, we all know that there was racism, like, back in the day, and black people didn't have their rights, and they were forced to do whatever their master told them to do. I don't know, it's just like an awkward situation right now.
Have any of you ever experienced racism in your school or anything?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So it wasn't necessarily in the school, but it was at a game, so you can call it that. But we were in the game, and then all of a sudden, I think it's like third quarter or whatever, the white kid on the other team looks, and it seemed like he was looking directly into my soul, like right at me. He looked at me, and then he stuck up the middle finger and called me the N-word, and I lost it. I literally lost it, and I was just ready to kill him at the moment. And I don't mean to say it like that, but that's how I felt. And my teammates, of course, tried to help me back, try to hold me back, but I was like, nah, that's not going out like that. And so they took me out for a few minutes, then they put me back in. And so me and my dad, I told my dad what happened. Like, everybody from the stands heard it, but the ref didn't hear it. He right there. And so we were just uncomfortable with what happened. So it was, every time I went to practice the next day, I was like, nah, I gotta talk to this, and I gotta talk about it. So I told my coaches what happened, and they I mean, I guess they kind of pushed it off. That's what it sounded like. They were like, oh, they're just mad because you're good and stuff. And I was like, nah, it's more than that. And I don't think they understand, because they're not black, or they never been called a racial slur like that. And for me to never have been called that before, and I guess it just picked up and that happened, my reaction to it just.
Yeah. Any of you experienced racism?
I was at work about, I think, a week ago, and my trainer was training me at the time, and these Africans came through the drive-thru. They called her a shrimp, and the girl she's Asian, and she called them a gorilla. I didn't know what that meant, but I kind of laughed at it. But when I got home, I told my parents about it, and they talked to us about it, and they were saying that that's what black people used to be called back then. I didn't know, so that made me feel some type of way when I found out about it, and it made me really think about what I did. And we just have to think before we act, think before we speak, and if you don't know something, then you should probably ask about it.
Good. Any of you others experienced any racism? That's good. Me and my wife my daughter were at a Irving School Board meeting, town hall meeting a couple nights ago, and high school students were talking and venting about things that they were experiencing in the school, and one of them got up and said how for several years at her school she had experienced racism, and nobody, she said, her words were, nobody has ever stood up for her. Do you feel like you have a role to play in balancing or creating equality in the world that one day you guys will be leading? Just in case you don't know it, if you haven't realized it, I know your parents have told you, but you're going to lead. You will be the leaders. You will be the next generation's church leaders. You will be the next generations, whether the next or the ones after that, political leaders. You'll be the next principals, teachers, school board presidents. You will be the next leaders. What role do you feel like you and teenagers should play in bringing about equality in your sphere of influence?
I think we play a major part because it's a new generation, and we're all friends with different races. People at school, you know, we don't all just have black friends. We don't all just have white friends or Asian friends, but we have a variety of friends. And I think that the decisions we make and how we act could possibly bring equality in this generation. Right now, I don't know how everybody feels, but you have some people who aren't racist, and they love people, they love everybody, and then you have those that they really don't, and they probably been taught in their house to hate other races, or they just felt like that because they either had some experience or they just feel like that in their heart.
That's good. And I'm glad you said that they were taught and you understand that, just in case some of you don't, or maybe a teenager is watching this and doesn't understand, nobody's born a racist. You have to be taught that. Babies are born to love. Babies have joy, peace, they reach out, they smile, they laugh. They don't have to be taught to do that. Racism is definitely something that's taught.
Okay, so I forgot this whenever you were asking if we had any like racist moments or anything, but it also goes with what you just said about like babies aren't taught anything. So I was at the pool with my friends one time, and this little white girl, she had to have been like 5 years old. She came up to me and she was playing with us, and everything was fine, everything was cool. And then we were sitting down, and she was like, "You're pretty fun for a black girl." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So then I told my friend's dad, and he went to the little girl's dad and was like, "Hey, you got to watch your kid. You can't let her walk around saying stuff like that." And I was thinking, like when they left, because they left after that, I was like, I bet that little girl didn't even know what she said was wrong. She's
No.
gonna go home, and her dad's gonna be like, don't say that out loud. Don't say that to people.
Right.
She heard that from somewhere, because what 5-year-old knows to say that. So my mom always tells me, like, kids don't see color or whatever. So I feel like as leaders, when we get older, we have to teach our kids now, even though what we're going through without being heard, when we have kids later on, that we still need to teach our kids to love everybody no matter what color they are, race, gender, sexuality, all that good stuff.
That's good. That's good. What role do you think you have as a teenager to help bring about equality?
Honestly, it is a bigger role. It really is. Like my sister was saying, and like you were saying, how babies, are innocent. They're, being taught. For me, we just gotta be more aware. Really, just being more aware of really what's going on. Realizing that this is not just what's going on today, but this has been happening forever, like since day one. So that for me, to the people out there, just be aware of everything. Don't be fools. You're gonna have some people that are too nice, but don't like I said, don't be fools. Just be smart about what you're doing and what's going on. And yeah, that's what I have.
Of course, we play a big role, as you've heard already, but like my parents say, like we're talking, someone else is talking. Just like they were saying about teaching, when they're teaching their child, who's to say they're not teaching them at home? Oh, it's good to be racist. That's what you're supposed to do, because we've wanted racism to stop since forever, since it first started, but it hasn't. So obviously, it's teaching down a generation and generation. So obviously, like we're talking, like they're talking, we got to speak to our families and to all our friends and loved ones, people we know and don't know, and we got to speak into them and to help them understand that equality is what we need.
It's good. Tay, you gonna say?
Well, I just think we have to just keep fighting and use our voice. It may not, everybody may not look at you the same, but everybody has a voice, and it may touch that one person's heart. It may touch a white person's heart. It may like give them a different perspective of what we feel. Yeah.
The title of this is Teen Summit. Your voice matters. That's one thing I want you guys to leave here with, is that you understand that your voice matters and it's powerful. I believe that part of your role as a teenager, a black teenager, part of your role as a black teenager watching this is to share your heart in love with your peers of different races. Listen, they don't understand you. Let's just be real about it. Your peers of other races, they do not understand you. They have an idea of who you are, and it can be completely skewed, as you said, based on what they heard at home. You have an opportunity to help shape the future leaders, and for some, to help reshape the future leaders by sharing your heart. That's why I wanted to give you guys this platform on tonight. Taylor, you said something about not seeing color, and I see that a lot, probably more so from our white counterparts than we do from black. You know, well, I don't see color, I don't see color. How do you feel when you hear that? How do you feel when you hear that? Is that a good thing? Is that something that you stand with, that, hey, you try not to see color? Or is that something that you will possibly teach your kids one day? What's your mindset and thought process on that phrase, I don't see color? And it's okay to disagree with somebody up here on the platform.
I think it's a good thing because, honestly, it breaks my heart to hear that we have to think about everybody, different colors. And we grew up, you don't see people for their race. You see people for who they are. And I love to be friends with other races than just my race. And to now look at this world and see that we're just separate, we're being treated differently than everybody else, it hurts.
I feel like it can be good depending on how you see it, but at the same time it can be bad. Not seeing color, in a sense, meaning we're all equal, we're all the same. And one of the songs that comes on the radio is We All Bleed the Same, meaning we all come from the same God, we're all created from the same God. You can believe whatever you want, but we're created from one God, so that's how it is, and that's how it's always gonna be. But to see that you're gonna have to see color once you grow up, because you start to see racism and these things start to build in your life, whether it's not happening to you or it's happening to somebody else and you see it, that's when I believe you start to see color, and that's when people change.
So, I agree with everything that they're saying. I still feel like I'm going to teach my child to not see color, meaning if you go to school your first day of first grade and you see this little white girl with pretty blonde hair and you want to tell her you have pretty blonde hair and you want to be friends with her, go do it. Be friends with them. But when you get older and problems like this start arising, you can still not see color, but just see the problems that we are having to deal with, So white people that use that I don't see color thing and don't want to speak up for the whole movement that we're going on is just as in the wrong as the people who are committing the crimes of what we're doing. But it doesn't mean you can't be friends or fall in love with a white man or a white woman. It just means whenever problems arrive, the same love you have for that white person is the same love you need to have and same anger you need to have for the black problem.
I honestly think that teaching your kids not to see color would be the start to change our generation. Because the more they hear, don't see colors, see them for who they are, then that'll trigger something in their mind to think that we don't have to just have black friends. We don't have to just have white friends. But we can be friends with everybody, still be equal, but know that, everybody hurts and some are treated differently than others.
Like my sister, like she was saying, being equal, that's what it really all boils down to. Realizing that we come from one person. Without one person, which is God, none of us will be here. So we just really got to, and I understand that a lot of us are hurting right now, but what we have to understand is, our current will never be our end. And we got to realize that, like I said, we come from one person, that's God. That's it, so.
I also think that whenever we have kids or whatever, that if you teach them now not to see color, maybe we can't change the world now, but maybe if we teach them now and as they grow up, that maybe they can change the world one day and everybody can be on the same page.
Good, thanks for sharing. Here's my thoughts on that phrase. I think we need to change that phrase. I think that phrase really needs to say, I see color, but I don't prejudge color. I really think that's what that phrase needs to be. Because when we say, I don't see color, it almost washes out the fact that we're different. That I don't have to understand your background and your culture because I don't see it. Because you why do I need to understand something I can't see? We're all alike. We're all the same. No, we're not. We're not all the same. My background is not the same as yours. My culture is not the same as yours. So I think the phrase is more accurately needs to be that I see color, but I don't prejudge color. And I think that when the reason why we have so many of our white counterparts that in this state or in previous states, they've never attempted to try to understand the plight of the black person is because they were taught and convinced you don't need to see color. No, we need them to see our color because that's why we're not getting the justice that we need right now and deserve is because that context has been misconstrued. It needs to be, I see color, but I don't prejudge color. When you have kids, teach your kids, yes, you are black, you are beautiful. White is beautiful. They have a different culture. Chinese is beautiful. They have a different culture. Yes, see different cultures, learn different cultures, understand different cultures. Why? When you try to understand me, at that point, then you learn why I am the way I am. At that point, the person who sees no color, as a white person who sees no color right now, they don't understand your anger. There's no reason to attempt to understand it because we're all the same. And you grew up in America just like I did. But because they have not attempted, they don't understand that they grew up in Dallas just like you, but they grew up in North Dallas. And you grew up in South Dallas. And that's like two different worlds, okay? They grew up on Main Street, and you grew up around Martin Luther King Street. That's two different worlds. The school systems are different. Okay, because in North Dallas, in their area, in their nice neighborhood, okay, growing up, they grew up in a place where they had the funds to have the best school built, okay, the best teachers are paid for, and then in this other area, where it's predominantly black, they didn't have the funds, the taxes weren't being paid on a high rate to where they can have the best schools, where they can have the best teachers, and then to sit back and just say, I don't see color. No, color matters. And we need to see it, we just don't need to prejudge it. Okay? So that's my thought process, is that we need to see color, we just don't need to prejudge color. Okay? Because if we don't see it, we won't attempt to understand it. Let's talk about the police. Because right now there's a lot of rage and a lot of anger with the police system, and a lot of policies that are being attempted to be changed on how they use force. Being the fact that in the last 10 years we've seen so many unarmed black men killed by police, has that shaped the way you view police officers now? And if so, how?
Personally, I believe I'm not scared, but it definitely makes you want to be aware of what's going on, so you can know, okay, yeah, this happened and it's tragic, but what can I do right, or what else can I do to prevent that from happening to me?
And let me say something about that. I think that's the issue, is that we haven't been able to find what can prevent that. We're putting our hands on the dashboard, and yet we're still being shot. We're saying, my hands are up, I don't have a gun, and we're still being shot. We're saying, I have a gun, but I have my license, it's under here. You want me to reach for my wallet, we reach for the wallet, and I'm still being shot. So that's the struggle that we're having, is that we're trying to do all the great thing. And I've heard from our white counterparts, when this happens to a black person, the first thing they want to find out to see is what they do wrong. They did something to scare that police officer. They had to do something, because if they would have just did everything that the police officer said, but as we can see in the George Floyd case and many of the other cases, they did everything that they were supposed to do, and yet it still didn't turn out. Your view on police officers right now?
So, like, I'm definitely scared of the police. Like, whenever I'm driving somewhere and a police gets behind me, whether it's just to run my plates or just because he's about to switch lanes, I get super scared. I start tensing up and holding steering wheel real tight. But it's not just that. Like, I've seen it. Like, I went to a protest the other day, and there was a bunch of police over there looking, but instead of them, like, we're there for a reason. We're not just there to be there, you know? It's not just a gathering. We're there to talk about something and be heard. And I was looking at the policemen, and I was really confused on how, like, they were struggling to see this. Because you know what you hear about black people all the time. They don't do nothing. They're not worth nothing, none of that. But we're over here with thousands of black people in one spot to talk about one person. Not just one person, but the most recent case. And, you know, they're not understanding it. And the police officer was already holding his gun finger on the trigger. Already. We weren't even by him. And I was like, they're scared, and we're on the other side of the road. So I'm scared of them because I'm black. I may not be a black male, but I'm black. So what if I get pulled over for going 10 miles over the speed limit too fast, and I keep my license in my purse behind the seat, and I reach for it? She's reaching for it, going, boom, shot, dead. That's terrifying to me. And I'm scared to get pulled over now. I'm scared. I don't speed. I don't run lights. I don't do none of that, because I could be on the news next. I could be the next tag or something.
It's important for us to not be afraid, but at the same token, realize what they can do. So, for instance, you could be driving at the correct speed at 45, and the police will pull you over for no reason. And they'll ask you for your ID, and the whole point of it is to not allow them to have a reason to, arrest you, meaning like attitude or anything like that. Basically just doing everything that they're telling you to do. And so if they're asking for your license, whatever, don't be hesitated. Just say, hey, officer, my hands is right here. My ID is either on my advisor or on the right side of me by my armrest. Stuff like that. That's what'll keep them from doing what they're doing. Yet not be afraid, but doing everything that they are telling you to do.
I still think that doing everything that they say still doesn't, nothing changes because you do everything, you kiss their behind or whatever, you do everything that they tell you to do, and you do one thing or you smack your lips or something, and boom, they just pull their gun out or call for backup, whatever. I just think they fear us the same if we fear them or whatever, but I think it's not the right way to handle a situation.
I'm scared of them, but I'm not scared. Police officer came through the drive-thru of my job last week or this week, and I was giving him his food, and I realized that it was a police officer, so it made me think, like, be careful, or it made me think about everything that was going on, and had no intention of thinking about it, but when I saw the police officer, it just made me go in that direction. So I've just tried to be really careful about what you do and what you say.
Yeah, well, I'm almost 40 years old, and I'm not scared of the police, but when they pull me over, if they pull me over, I'm definitely nervous. And it's a sad plight in life that I've sat up at night, in the middle of the night, thinking about my plan. And it's funny to me when I see people on Facebook, and especially when I see white men on Facebook and say, I understand what you're going through. Don't tell me as a white man you don't understand what I'm going through. And I don't get into a lot of social media debates, but that's one of the things I want to say, how many nights at 1 a.m. in the morning were you up thinking about what you're going to do when the police stop you? That's what I want to say on that post when that guy says, I understand. Don't tell me I don't understand. I definitely understand. No, you don't. If you've never been up at 1 a.m. thinking about what should I do, because I'm still in a quandary on what should I do, because I'm going to record, but if I record it and something happens and they take my phone, guess what? There's no evidence. If should I go live so that if something happens, it's out there and I don't have to worry about my phone being taken or smashed? Because you understand, the last two incidents that's happened in Georgia and up in Minneapolis, they've only resulted in charges because it was recorded. If it wasn't recorded, we wouldn't be talking about these. These men would have been off and free, but it was only recorded. So these are things that black men and women, if you're watching this, white counterparts, these are the things that make us say, no, you don't understand. We have to have a plan on what to do when the police officer stops us. Next question. How do you feel about America right now? Do you feel like there's hope in America? Do you have hope in America? No, that's a heavy question.
I do, but I don't at the same time, because everyone is like talking bad about it. Trump makes nothing better at all. He just doesn't know what to do with life. And I just think that
Go ahead.
I just think that everybody's losing their minds right now. Everybody's scared. They don't know what to do. That's what
No, I really agree with her, but I feel like, I don't know about change, because how long has racism been going on? Like, forever? So, I don't know about change, but I think that if something like what happened to George Floyd was happening again 20 years from now, and a white woman were to walk by and see it, I feel like she would pick up her phone and record too. Not necessarily it stop, but I feel like it's definitely way more awareness. I was watching the news and I heard them saying that there was protests and rioting happening over all 50 states in America. So it's definitely being seen. And I know there's people out here, especially like white people out here saying like, I would never do something like this. I don't understand what they're going through, but I definitely feel for them or whatever. And so I feel like that might increase, like other races taking a stand with us. They're already doing it,
Yeah.
you know? So maybe not better, maybe not change, but it's definitely gonna, it'll be something different.
That's good. I'm glad you said that. I'll let you guys answer. I'm glad you said that because one thing that we don't want to do is just discredit everybody of every other race. Because if you've been to a protest, if you've been to a prayer rally, if you've seen it on TV, every nationality is out there. Every nationality, every religion is out there. People who have never spoken up are speaking up now. We're definitely not where we need to be, but I think we're definitely going in a direction that some things have to change. It's too wide open now. It's too wide open, and it's been seen too much for nothing to change. Go ahead.
I personally feel that there is hope. We just gotta see it through, see it and really put action to it. Like, if we really, trust God, there is hope,
Kind of like what Taylor was saying about a guy saying they would never do that. And in your mind, you hate to think like this, but you got to think it's the ones that say they don't, that later on in life or right now at this very moment will, and you just don't know it, but you're laughing it off or you're putting it off, you're pushing it behind your mind, but they're the ones that could be the next one that could possibly kill you or say something towards you.
I'm agreeing with what they're saying. Watched a video a couple weeks back that my dad had showed us on Facebook, and the police officer came and stopped this couple. It was a black lady and I think it was a white man, and they were beating up the black woman, and the husband was trying to help, but they were holding him back. And you can hear everybody in the crowd, they're watching and they're saying things, but they're not doing anything to stop it. And I think that if you see something like that, you can definitely try to at least help it so that it won't go any further. Because the more you record, the more people see it, then the questions are, what are you doing to stop it? Because everybody's just gonna keep recording everything, and then you never know, it might get worse, it might get better, and people might change their views on everything, but it's making everything worse by just recording everything.
That's good. That's good. Man, I've definitely enjoyed this conversation tonight. I wish we could go on forever. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to, one at a time, to look into the camera. And I want you to take 60 seconds, one by one. Talk to the white father who just doesn't get it. Talk to the white mother who just doesn't get it. Talk to that white teenager that you go to school with that he doesn't understand what the big deal is. If you could tell them one thing about how you feel and what you're thinking, let this be that opportunity. Before you do that, let me tell you guys something, and any teens that may be watching it, tell you a couple things. One, your voice matters. Your voice is powerful. You have a responsibility. You have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to play in the fight for social justice and equality. You may not be on CNN. You may not be a famous movie star where you can write millions of dollars of checks, but what you can do is you can fight right there in your schools. What you can do is you can stand up in your schools and use your voice when you see racism. What you can do is you can stand up in your schools and you can share your heart in love. You can share your mind, and you can be a part of organizations right there in your school, right there in your community, volunteering in organizations like NAACP, other organizations in your community. You have a part to play. You are needed, okay? Look at yourself, all of you, point down to yourself and say, you are needed. You are needed. At 14, 15, and 16, 17 years old, you can be a part of shaping and reshaping a generation that will one day lead this country. Second thing I want to say is never give up hope. Never give up hope. I may not have hope in America. I may not have hope in a particular president or a particular political party, but what I can have hope in is in Jesus Christ. The Bible says that God has the power to hold the heart of man in his hand, and he can turn it whithersoever the way that he desires it to be. So regardless of what's going on in the White House, regardless of what's going on, change. So I'm going to always have hope in change. The moment you lose hope is the moment you'll stop fighting. You have to keep hope in God so that the protests will continue to go on when we're dead and gone. So that people will go and fight for policies to be changed when we're dead and gone. You have to have hope if you're going to continue to pray, protest, and fight for policy. Use your voice. You have power. You have a responsibility. And don't give up hope. So take 60 seconds. We'll start this way and go around. And share your heart to that one man, that one woman, that one teen who just does not understand where you are in this season of your life as a black teenager.
Well, we are like hurting. You know, it's hard to say for me that I wish it can, stop, like this whole racism and stuff, because you just never know when it's going to end. But man, we're definitely hurting. We just can't take it no more. We're tired of it. We've been dealing with this. Like I said, all this racism and violence and all this mess has been going on since day one, and man, we're just tired. We're just tired of it. So, but I know and I have hope in God that things will be all right. But like I said, we just can't. This is stuff is just really tired of.
You may not understand what's happening right now, but at least be open-minded and open-hearted that it'll get better one day. And try to, at least. Just like a hard math problem or chemistry or whatever subject you struggle in, at some point you're going to have to get it, at some point you're going to have to learn it. So at least make an effort, No one's telling you have to do anything, but at least try to.
I don't know what else to say, but just fight for your rights. And if you're with us, stand and heard. We all are hurting. You guys might not understand, like she said, but we all have a voice. We all need to be heard. So if you guys would just stand with us and just fight, we could all change this world some way or another.
You guys could never understand the pain that we're going through and the frustration and anger. Regardless if you think you do or don't, you never could, and you probably never will. If the story was changed and it was put on you that we were being racist towards you guys and we were the police officers, how would you feel? What would you be thinking? And where would you be right now, honestly, today?
We are all human. How would you, like he said, how would you feel if we did the same thing towards you? We were killing y'all, killing for no reason, being racist towards you just because of the color. we're just a color. It doesn't matter if we was blue, purple, black, whatever. Um, we can make change, and I hope this touched your heart and you see the perspective of everybody's thinking of how we think about Black Lives Matter.
Man, thank you guys for joining us tonight, being willing to be open and transparent and share how you feel. We're praying for you, your entire generation, because again, you are our future leaders. We're praying for you, Mom. We're praying for you, Dad, as you navigate the waters on having to raise kids in a generation, in a season that many of us never knew that we would have to raise them in. And you're not left out. We got something for you, Mom and Dad.